Good morning and welcome to today's Student Town Hall. I'm so glad you've joined us here this morning. Before we begin, I just want to reiterate my deep appreciation and admiration to you, our students. We all know how significantly you've had to adjust, then readjust, and do so again and again. You all have done so with grace and integrity, and while I certainly don't wish any of this on any of you, I think what we can say is that your ability to do this so well is a testament to how successful you're going to be in your future careers and in your future endeavors. The ability to be responsive to change and able to navigate complex circumstances like you're doing right now will serve you incredibly well in the future, and you've certainly made me and others on this call very proud. We hope that you find today to be very informative. Our goal is to answer as many student questions as we possibly can in this time frame. Today, we'll have lots of people on the call that will be able to assist in answering your questions, including our Chancellor, Dr. Domenico Grasso, our Provost, Dr. Susan Alcock, our Vice Provost for Enrollment Management, Melissa Stone, our Director of Emergency Management, Laura Drabchak, and our Associate Vice Chancellor for Business Affairs, Carol Glick, and of course me, Amy Finley, your Dean of Students. Our panelists are each going to introduce themselves briefly, provide a short opening remark, and hopefully in that they may address some of the questions you already have or that came in prior to today's event through the registration process. But I want you to know that the Q&A is available during this event, so please be sure if you have a question to click on the Q&A button and to submit that live. We will get to as many questions as we possibly can, so do please send those in. So let's get started. At this time, I would like to invite Chancellor Domenico Grasso to share some opening remarks.
Thank you, Dean Finley. I would like to echo Amy's comments earlier. We're very proud of our student body and how well you've adapted to such challenging times. These are unusual times. It seems like one day bleeds into another, and it's hard to distinguish when one starts and one stops. And as I've said in another meeting, it's been like one long day since the beginning of this crisis in the middle of March. We are working very hard to make sure that we protect your health and well-being. That's our top priority. And at the same time, we're working to deliver an outstanding education that you've come to expect from the University of Michigan-Dearborn. So I want to, by way of introduction to the other folks who are going to talk, because they will not blow their own horns, I just want to tell you that we have had the A-team working on this tirelessly for many, many days. Laura Drabchak, who is the Director of Emergency Management, has headed up our Emergency Operations Center. You may hear that term used frequently during the conversation, EOC. It's a group of individuals that have come together on a daily basis to look at what information is available and what decisions have to be made. Susan Alcock, our Provost, is another terrific leader who's organized everything on the academic side of the house. So those two people have been very instrumental in how we are planning for the fall. As you may know, we're going to be primarily online. I think we've been prescient in our planning for the fall, and a lot of other institutions are now following our lead. As you may have seen, schools that were saying that they were going to be heavily face-to-face are now backtracking and are going heavily online. We're about 85% online, 15% the courses that really are going to be most effectively taught in person are going to be offered on campus. Our lab courses and design courses will be on campus. But other than that, we're going to try to keep everybody safe and offer a terrific education at the same time. I don't want to talk too long here because there's a lot of detailed information from all the other folks that are on here, but I want to thank all of them for all the hard work that they put in. I want to thank you all for being so adaptable and flexible and understanding of why we have to do the things that we have to do. And I hope that your fall semester is as terrific as you are thinking it's going to be in your mind's eye, especially for our new students that are embarking on their college career in such an unusual time. So with that, I'll just say Go Blue and go Dearborn. And I'll turn it back over to Dean Finley.
Thank you, Chancellor Grasso. Provost Elcock, the floor is yours.
How many PhDs does it take to remember to turn the mute button off? Yeah, sorry. It's good to see everyone. I hope everyone is well. I want to echo the Chancellor and Dean Finley in their total admiration for the resilience and class that you have all shown through this, through these past many days and weeks and months. I'm sure you'll find this conversation today helpful. To make it even more helpful, we've brought in a few additional people. We looked at the questions that had been previously submitted and thought we should, as the Chancellor said, bring the A team. So I also want to give a shout out to Maureen Linker, who's recently become an associate provost in my office and is also the director of the Mardigan Library. Trista W., I should have practiced, who runs a graduate studies program, which oversees the Office of International Affairs, and Francisco Lopez, who is the director of our Office of International Affairs, since we know that there are questions on that front. So, this is the range of expertise we have for you here. What do I have to contribute at this point? I guess a challenge and a plea. As the Chancellor noted, a lot of good hard work has gone into thinking about how to keep our Dearborn community safe and healthy in the fall, while at the same time continuing to deliver an academic experience worthy of you and of our commitment to you. So we have a plan, we have a lot of policies, we have procedures. You've been hearing about these for a while in various ways, most recently in the return to campus guide, the snazzy return to campus guide, and of course there's the town hall today. But as we all know this, you can plan and plan, but it's all for nothing if we don't take these plans and policies and procedures to heart and follow them to the letter. I mean, we've all been watching the news. It takes very, very little and nothing deliberately intentional to trigger what can have potentially tragic outcomes. So, look around at some of the things happening on other campuses, and let's all say together that the University of Michigan-Dearborn, the University of Michigan, can and will do better. Now, in order to keep us safe, several tough decisions were, had to be made. You're going to be hearing about these. One of these is around student study space on campus, that students will not have ready access to space on campus for extended work time. This is in the fall term. This was not at all an easy decision. Many factors lay behind it, which Laura and Carol could speak to in more detail than I could. I should say we all fully realize this puts additional burdens on the student body and will have a disproportionate effect on many of you. But I nonetheless ask you to abide strictly by this policy. We put it in place for very, very good reasons. Now, there are some things we can do to try to help here, though. Students who meet certain criteria about class timing, either 2 face-to-face classes or a face-to-face and a synchronous class, or students who are working involved with the screening process you'll be hearing more about, and then a class, those students will be invited to submit Google Forms to request time in a certain set carefully designed safe study spaces on campus to use because of those time constraints. And I can let Carol Glick explain more what that setup will look like. Finally, very quickly, well, maybe you're not thinking about winter yet, but we are. We're working on it. We have a proto plan for the winter. We're awaiting Regental approval. I can say that we'll have the same twin goals as we had in the fall, which is, paramount health and safety of our campus community and thus our families and friends, and plus an ongoing commitment to a quality UM-Dearborn academic experience. Given, the way that things are looking with pandemic conditions, we are planning conservatively and aiming right now for much of the same mix of modalities and campus density as we're having this fall. And so that's just my sort of warm up, and I'll hand it back to Amy.
Great. Thank you, Provost Alcock. I'd invite Vice Provost for Enrollment Management, Melissa Stone. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Amy. And good afternoon, everyone. Understandably, this semester is going to look a little different, but we're really excited to welcome you back soon. And you've obviously likely received many communications. We've tried our best to try to streamline and ensure that you're receiving timely and appropriate communications. We understand it can also be overwhelming. So I just wanted to highlight a couple things to remind everyone as you're thinking about what the fall semester is going to look like for you individually, is that for the most part, currently your schedule should reflect the course modality that you would expect. So we wanted to remind everybody that through, their schedule to pay attention to your modality. And if you haven't reviewed it, we would encourage you to please review the campus guide that's recently been put out. It gives you some valuable information and reminds you how to review some of those resources to ensure that you know what the experience for your individual class will look like. And as we're going through this presentation, you'll probably hear additional details around that. But I just want to remind everybody about that, that your individual schedule will tell you that. The other thing to keep in mind is that everything is relatively subject to change as we continue to monitor what the landscape looks like. And so, especially as we kind of get closer to the first start of the start of the semester, please ensure that you are monitoring that if there could be changes, because we cannot guarantee that necessarily a particular course wouldn't change. But for the most part, the modalities of the majority, as was mentioned, are remote. And so what you'll want to do is, if some students have asked questions about how do I know what is remote, what is not, if you've not actually done your schedule yet and you are still exploring what courses to add, also through the Dearborn Connect does give you a list of all courses that are of a remote mode if you are trying to explore adding your courses. So again, we can get into additional details throughout this presentation, but just wanted to remind everyone of that. The other update I wanted to give is that we do recognize right now that, the challenges that still students and families may be experiencing financially due to the current circumstances of the pandemic. We are grateful as an institution that we did receive CARES funding, so I did want to give a little bit of an update on that to students. So the CARES funding that we specifically got in the spring to help students, we have continued to disperse to students. I can confirm that over $1.7 million has been given out to about 1,400 students to date. We do have up to $3.5 million to disperse between now and next spring. And so we will continue to award students who have needs. So if you are experiencing any financial hardships related to COVID, if you have technology challenges and being able to manage sort of in this landscape, we encourage you to please look at the emergency resources that have been put out and apply for the funding. If students did already receive the money, there is at this time, we are limiting the amount we're giving per student. So if you did receive money, you can apply again for the fall, but if there is going to be a limit just to ensure that we can disperse fairly across all of students that are eligible. Now, keep in mind, the only requirement at this point is you have filed for federal aid. So we do understand that many of our students, including our international students, are not directly eligible for the CARES funding, but we still encourage you to look at the emergency resources page. We do have other funding through our emergency, our immediate relief funding that is institutional that we are trying to use for those who may not qualify for CARES. So please, what I just encourage everybody is that we are here to try to help you. We want to ensure that any financial challenges that you're experiencing, we want to know about. And we will do our best to try to work with you to ensure that you that is not a barrier for you to continue into the fall. The other thing I did want to mention, just that I think an update was given out last month, but again, with so much communication, I just encourage everyone to remind everyone that one of the things we are excited we were able to roll out while all of this was still going on is the fact that as an institution, we did roll out block tuition. And what this is, it gives an opportunity to essentially take a larger course load than maybe they may not have in the past due to financial reasons. So the block tuition allows students to take 12 credits at essentially, or 12 or more credits at the same cost as 12 credits for your base tuition. That doesn't include premiums students may pay depending on the course loads they may take as upper level. But for your base tuition, all students are assessed the same once they're at 12 credits. There's not additional premiums beyond that. So I just encourage people, there's still time if you're looking at your schedule, and that, taking 15 now will not necessarily increase your cost of your base tuition like it was. So I just wanted to remind people of that, and there's still time to take advantage of that if you choose. So that's my update for now. And then again, we'll continue to get through some questions as we move forward.
Great, thank you so much. I would invite Laura Drabchek, our Director of Emergency Management now, for her opening remarks.
Thank you. So I just wanted to share with you this morning how we landed on our decisions for the fall, the numerous preparations that we've implemented to keep our campus community safe, which includes keeping as many operations and courses as remote as possible. The measures we have taken have been based in research and off of advice from health experts. We have been tracking cases in the Tri-County area, knowing as a commuter campus, this is where a large portion of our population resides. We have seen Wayne County as the hotspot in the state, with Oakland and Macomb closely behind. Therefore, we are intentionally keeping densities on campus low. Decisions for the fall were not taken lightly, and many hours and days of deliberation were needed to identify the way forward, as the Chancellor mentioned. Not all of our buildings will be opened. As an example, the Mardigan Library will only have pickup service available, and the bookstore will provide curbside pickup. Our classroom and teaching labs will look very different. Carol Glick and her team in facilities operation has gone through each classroom and lab and has laid out the room to maintain the 6-foot social distancing requirement. There will be supplies in the classroom and labs to clean your desk and workspace before and after, and there will be hand sanitizer throughout the buildings. All students arriving from international destinations will practice 14 days of enhanced social distancing upon arrival in accordance with CDC guidelines. All students, staff, faculty, and visitors are required to wear a face covering that covers both the nose and mouth while anywhere on the campus grounds, including inside and outside, and while on the university-provided shuttle. During the semester, all members of the community who are to be on campus will check for symptoms prior to coming to campus through an online tool or mobile app. Should you receive a red screen, do not come to campus. Notify Student Affairs at the designated number provided in the Return to Campus guide. The same is true for a faculty member or staff member who receives a red screen. They'll be reporting into their supervisor. Prior to entry into any academic building, you will be required to wear your face covering, show your green screen on your mobile device to the screener at the door. If you do not have a mobile device, you will be required to answer the same questions upon arrival. Your temperature will be taken with a touchless thermometer, and you will need to swipe your M card, which will cross-check your access into that building. We understand that with any process, there will be a few minor bumps during the first couple weeks of class, so we ask in advance for your patience and understanding. If we have a positive case on campus, my office will work closely with the local health officials to provide assistance in contact tracing. Each positive case will be treated on a case-by-case basis. So if you receive a call from a public health official or university official, please answer your phone or return the call. It is your health and that of your loved ones at risk. In summary, I encourage you to do your part before coming to campus by taking your temperature and answering the questions in the screening app. While on campus, be patient with the screening process, maintain social distancing, wear your face coverings, and practice good hygiene by keeping hands away from your face and wash or sanitize your hands frequently. Do not come to campus for any reason if you are feeling ill. Stay home and give yourself the time to get well. The safety of our campus community is in all your hands. We need everyone to do their part in order for us to have a safe, productive academic fall term. Amy, back to you.
Great, thank you. I would now invite Carol Glick, our Executive Director for Facilities Management.
Great, thank you, Amy. I'd like to first of all say good morning to all of you and welcome back to a new semester at the University of Michigan-Dearborn. I'd like to take just the next 5 minutes to give you sort of a brief overview of what your campus experience will look like and feel like when you return in the fall. So specifically, I'll talk about signage, building status and access. We'll talk a little bit about M cards, parking permits, social distancing, daily health screening, and last but not least, cleaning and disinfection. So as Laura mentioned, when you come to campus, before you come to campus, please access your daily health screening app, go through the questions and make sure that you have a green screen. This information is in the Return to Campus Guide, which has information on just about anything you could hope for. This is on page 9. So this app will walk you through all the questions and give you resources if you get a red screen. When you come to campus, you will see lots of signs that you've not seen before that are here to remind all of us that we are engaging in a new culture. And we need to remember to do the things that will help all of us stay safe. So specifically, we will be reminding you to stay home if you're sick. First and foremost, Laura's mentioned that. You'll hear that again and again. Wear a newly laundered face covering every time you come to campus. There will be face coverings available at the screening stations if you would like to have more than one. Maintain your 6-foot social distance and wash your hands frequently. When you come to campus, what you will see is that most of our buildings are closed. Our classroom buildings are open, but they are only open when we have classes scheduled to people who have scheduled classes at that time in that building. So the doors will be open for your classes. When you come in, you'll see immediately a screening station. As Laura mentioned, first thing you want to do is show that green screen that says that you're healthy. You'll get your temperature taken with the touchless thermometer, and you will scan your M card, which will simply confirm that you are in the right place at the right time. So once you enter the building, we ask you to continue to maintain that social distancing. It's really easy to bunch up and have conversations with people. Just remember, face coverings and social distancing. Let's talk a little bit about M cards. So if you are a new student to campus, in order to come into the building, you will need your M card. So if you're a new student to campus, someone from University and Unions and Events, UUE, will personally contact you to set up an appointment to get your photo taken and to receive your M card. If you are an existing student with on-campus classes and you've either lost your M card or it's damaged, then you can email the UUE team, and that email address is umd-mcard@umich.edu and request a replacement card, and they'll contact you and set that process up. Typically, if you've had a recent M card, you won't need to come in and get your picture taken. Parking permits. So parking permits are required for students on campus after the second week of classes. So we get a couple of weeks so that we can all get our permits and get them appropriately attached to our cars. So if you are a new student and you're getting a new M card, you will get your parking permit at the same time. If you are an existing student, your parking permit will be available at the screening station after your classes. So just make some time in the first couple of days to pick that up. Other students with out on campus needs can contact the parking office. Again, that email is umd-parking@umich.edu and request your parking permit. Otherwise, we'll be working with people through the year to get those out. As Laura mentioned, we have reduced the capacities in our classrooms and our laboratories, so you will see that reduced furniture. We ask people not to add furniture to these classrooms. They're set up specifically for the capacities that are permitted within our social distancing requirements. We have plexiglass shields in areas where maintaining social distancing on an ongoing basis is not possible. And again, your best way to contribute to the overall health of our campus is to make sure that you are wearing your face coverings at all time and maintaining that 6-foot social distance. In terms of cleaning and disinfection, you will see at all building entrances and at elevators that we have hand sanitizer available. We encourage you to use that. And again, remind you that the best way to wash your hands is with soap and water. So as you have access to soap and water, that's preferred to hand sanitizer. Cleaning of high-touch surfaces throughout the campus is the shared responsibility of all campus stakeholders, and we ask you to help us engaging in that activities. We've moved our custodial services from midnights to days and afternoons so that you will see them throughout the day and the evening as you're in classes, and they will be participating in this disinfection process. We've also provided disinfectant spray bottles and paper towels in classrooms, labs, and common areas, and we encourage you to use them as you access high-touch surfaces. And that is everything that I have prepared for you today. I'm, of course, happy to respond to questions as we go forward. And again, want to just take a moment to thank each of you for your partnership and your commitment to the health and the safety of our campus community. Go Blue.
Okay, thank you, Carol. So I hope our students are hearing a lot of really important information from a lot of different perspectives, and I want to add to that just a bit here. First of all, I want everyone to know, based on what you're hearing today, I want to reassure you that you will have full access to campus resources, services, and people. So of course, it may be a different modality, but it doesn't change our institutional commitment to providing these critical services and resources. So we have worked hard ever since March, but particularly over the summer, to think about how we are optimizing all virtual services to serve you best and adapting as needed to do what we can to support you through your educational journey during this unusual time. Excuse me. So a question we've gotten a lot of in the past week or two is about student life, and will there be student life? And the answer is that student life is still incredibly important and is prioritized. So though we are virtual and we won't have in-person meetings and activities as we might have done before, our student life team has been adapting all of our resources and services to ensure that we can
Is everyone else still on?
Yes, I think Amy froze.
Oh dear.
There's our MC.
That's kind of epic.
Yeah, Amy, can you re-log in? Is that possible? I think that's what she's doing. Here she is.
Give her a minute.
Very good.
Okay, I'm back. So this is life in Zoom, isn't it? Lovely. Thank you for your patience, everyone.
This
so we are
characterizes, let me just say, this characterizes the adaptability, flexibility, and resilience of U of M-Dearborn.
There you go.
Nothing stops us.
That's right. And this is why many of our courses are going to be delivered in an asynchronous format so that we don't experience these type of issues. So I'm not sure where I left off when I left you, but what I want to reiterate is that we are continuing to prioritize student life and utilize our Victor's Link software in new ways that are now available to us so that we can make sure we're connecting students to really exciting opportunities to build community, build friendships, and engage with student organizations. In addition, I want to say that we are strongly, and you've heard the Chancellor and the Provost and myself say this before, but we strongly discourage you from coming to campus unless you have an in-person course. And we cannot say this enough. We want to, as our #1 priority, make sure that the health and safety of our faculty, staff, and students is at the forefront at every moment. And part of our responsibility in doing so is to lower the density on campus and ensure only the people who must be there are there. So again, I just want to reiterate, we are strongly discouraging you from coming to campus if you do not have an in-person course. We won't be facilitating large study spaces, as the Provost alluded to, but as she said, we will have an opportunity that will be communicated to students who have in-person classes for small groups of students to be in student study spaces if they have multiple face-to-face courses that are back-to-back, and or they have an asynchronous course that is in close time proximity to a face-to-face course. We are also getting a lot of questions about shuttle service. So the university will provide shuttle service between the main campus and the Fairlane campus. and the common housing locations where our students reside, such as the Union at Dearborn, Fairlane Woods, and Fairlane Meadows. We will be on a reduced schedule, so we encourage you to check out the website and kind of keep abreast of that. The link for that website is in our Return to Campus guide, and as has been stated before, this is a really powerful tool that we encourage you to read thoroughly. Finally, I want to also invite you to join University Leadership in a webinar tomorrow that will discuss the sexual misconduct and gender-based misconduct guide. And that is from 11 a.m. to noon tomorrow. And that has a lot of important information about new changes to Title IX regulations. So please do think about joining us for that conversation. To access the link, you simply have to go to Sunday night's all student email. It's very clearly in there. Again, this is really important and a lot of change in policy and procedure according to Title IX guidelines. So we encourage you there. So with that, I want to turn it over to our Q&A portion and have an opportunity to answer some of the questions that you have and that you have been asking. And so I'd like to start with a question that has come in, which is, one moment, please. Is there an option to not be physically on campus if students are genuinely concerned? So I will turn this question over to the provost.
It's just easier to remember to be quiet and keep the mute button off. I think the most important thing that you should do if you're genuinely concerned is to talk to people about why you're concerned. And a good place to begin with that is with your academic advisor and have a conversation about your course of study, the classes you're interested in taking, but also the worries that you have. Learn more, and many people are here to help you understand fully or more how we're protecting everyone's health and safety on campus. And then we can, figure out, does an all remote schedule really make the most sense for you? And then we will do everything we can and then some to make that work for you. But I think we should think about, what are the concerns? Can we talk about them, help each other understand them, and then make a decision about how to go forward? Amy, you might want to, or Dean Finley, I should say, you might want to comment on that further from other perspectives.
Yeah, I do. So we have a couple of ways to think about this. Number one, we have a lot of students who have some concerns based on it's an unusual and scary time based on a family member who may have health concerns or be immunocompromised. So there are a lot of students, not just those who personally have a health concern, that may be impacted. So I would underscore the provost's suggestion that you talk with an academic advisor, but you can also talk with someone from our student affairs team. So I invite you, if you have questions or concerns about navigating the term, to email dearborncovidsupport@umich.edu and ask your questions. So there are a whole host of student affairs professionals ready and willing to answer your questions, talk through your concerns with you, identify appropriate resources, and get you connected to whatever you need to, number one, make you feel more comfortable, but number two, and probably most importantly, to help you to be successful. Okay, so our next question, if a student becomes infected with COVID-19 during the semester, will we lose credit for not going to in-person classes or in-class exams, or what should we do? So I will start with that. I will start with that, and then I will hand it to the provost.
Okay.
So first, I think most importantly, and you'll probably hear this over and over, is I would encourage you to email Dearborn COVID support@umich.edu and let us know what's going on so our team can help support you if you are ill, if you have other concerns going on. So you can start there. You may also call 313-593-5056. These are two venues for you, two avenues for you to let us know what's going on. So that should be your first call or your first email, but I will turn it over to the provost.
Yeah, I think one basic thing that I want to convey on behalf of, pretty much everyone at the university, but particularly perhaps the faculty, is that, you know, the first thing you have to really take on board and remember is that we are on your side. We want you to succeed. We want you to graduate. And we will really do everything we can, as I said before, and then some, to make that happen. So, you know, no, you're not going to get penalized for getting sick. You know, let's hope that doesn't happen. But the last thing you should worry about is that automatically is going to lose you credit or lose you grades. Now that, you know, so the answer basically is no. If you do become ill, best thing to do is to reach out along with all the resources Dean Findlay just pointed to. Do reach out to your course instructor who can work with you on finding alternative accommodations. They get in touch with them, let them know the situation, and they'll do their best to help. I mean, certainly, you know, we don't want the instructors, none of us want any student who feels ill to come into campus, to come to university and risk their health or the health of others. So, you know, just one thing to remember, you know, instructors, you know, this does happen in other settings. Instructors are accustomed to making accommodations. People do get sick, unforeseen circumstances arise. So, you know, this is not completely terra incognita. So I guess I would say, you know, we'll do everything we can to make remote options possible, viable, and make them work for you, fullest extent possible. And if things can't work out, there is always an option for an incomplete grade that would give you a little bit more time to complete work missed without having to re-enroll in the class and without penalty for getting ill. But of course, we truly hope that will not happen.
Great, thank you. So our next question I think is really important for students to understand. So can Provost, you talk about the different modalities of courses. What do those terms mean? Synchronous, asynchronous, and also what is a hybrid course and how is it different than a normal course?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, this is, you know, I in my youth, I used to be a classicist. So, you know, these are all Greek words. You know, synchronous basically, it's like your normal class. You know, it's like, okay, at 10 o'clock, I'm going to be sitting in a classroom and you're there and I'm there and the faculty's there and we're all here and we are doing this synchronously, all together, same time. That's what synchronous means, at the same time. And that's cool. Asynchronous is more when, you know, materials are made available online and might be watching something or doing something or reading something, but you're doing it asynchronously. It means your classmates may be doing it at different times. You don't have to be doing it at exactly 10. 10 may work for you. 12 may work for someone else. 4 in the morning might work for someone else. You know, that's cool. That said, asynchronous does not mean I'm going to wait till the last week of class to do everything. There are deadlines. But asynchronous means you have a bit more control about and flexibility about when you do the work. Now, both are, you know, completely valid ways to proceed. Synchronous teaching is especially powerful for some subjects where you might need that sort of right in the moment activity. But asynchronous has many advantages as well, especially for folks like many of you I know who are working or have family obligations or, you know, just trying to navigate the COVID world. So hybrid basically means a bit of both. So we are offering modalities where there's hybrid courses that you might come to on campus for periods of time, of varying times and lengths, and we'll let you know about that. And then, but most of it is delivered remotely. Otherwise, there's sort of, you know, completely remote classes where some is synchronous. You will be expected certain time altogether, but the rest is asynchronous. And believe me, faculty have been thinking very hard about what makes best for their courses. What's the best way to deliver the course content in a way that is, best suited for the material, but also best suited for you. So.
Great, thank you. I'm now going to invite Vice Provost Melissa Stone to talk about the Get to Graduation Fund.
Thank you, Dean Finley. Yes, a good question came through because I sort of mentioned earlier about the CARES funding and the immediate relief funding, but somebody did ask specifically about the Get to Graduation, which is a third option we do provide in our emergency resources. So I thought it would be important to raise if any students on the call potentially are eligible. So this specific fund is more tied to students who are, again, getting close to graduation. So typically they're going to be in maybe their final year, where we do know that some students may exhaust some of their federal aid, especially some of our students who may have started at our community colleges and then transferred into us, so they may have used federal aid in different ways. And so this is some of this funding is specific to certain colleges that have had generous donors. And so we do encourage any students, again, this is just the messaging I gave at the beginning. We want to try to work with you to ensure that you do not have any financial barriers. And so we want you to please let us know if you're struggling financially towards close to the end of graduation, applying for this fund. There may be funding that we can help you get you over the finish line. So that one would be more specific to those that are closer to in their final courses and have no federal aid eligibility. We encourage you to look for the Get to Graduation Fund. And the emergency resources page outlines this one in addition to the other two that I mentioned.
So I'm going to stay with you, Vice Provost Stone, and a question came in about how students will be notified, if they will, about any adjustments in course modality or tuition or those kinds of things.
Yeah, so I think that, we're doing our best, obviously, across the campus, as was mentioned, to continue to communicate any changes. And I think that one of the things that I sort of said at the beginning is I think it's important that students do sort of look at their own schedules, especially as we come upon the courses, because there could be changes essentially happening up through classes starting. And so we don't want students to necessarily come on campus and then realize that, oh wait, my modality changed. So we do encourage students to pay attention to their schedule and their instructional mode up until when classes begin. I think if there's any larger changes beyond individual course changes, then of course there will be a larger communication that would go from the campus if there is any global change to what has occurred. I think that obviously has been messaged there. The team is very much monitoring everything that is going on in the landscape. And so although that officially our messaging right now is even those courses that are on campus will be on campus in some mode potentially through Thanksgiving as of today, I think we have to recognize that we also have to be nimble to the fact that that could change. So I think we are attempting to communicate in every possible way. One of the things I will note, because a question did come through from potentially a new student, one of the things I will note for new students who essentially are starting with us for the first time this fall, keep in mind, depending on when you are coming through, some communications earlier in the cycle potentially went to your applicant email, because students create their UMich email at very different times, depending. So to ensure students were receiving email, some new students may be getting earlier in the process some communications. So if you feel like you're not getting communications, I would encourage you to look at whatever your applicant email was or personal email that you may have applied for, because there could be some communications. As we going forward with fall starting, UMich will be your primary mode. But I do want to note that for maybe some new students who feel like they have only seen things on website because there was a question that was raised. So I do want to remind students to maybe think about what was your applicant email, because that might have been what we thought was the best way to communicate to you earlier in the.
So a great question has come up that I will toss to Carol, our Executive Director for Facilities. A question is, can you describe some of the disinfectants that are used, please?
Oh, absolutely. So in the labs, we use isopropyl alcohol. In the general areas, so the disinfectant that you'll see in the common areas is typically Virex, which is a quaternary ammonium, or quat, which just means that it's designed not only for bacteria but for viruses as well. That's a pretty standard healthcare disinfectant, and that's what we expect to be using just as a general disinfectant. Hand sanitizer is 60% alcohol, which is the requirement for this. And again, we also encourage people to use hand soap that's just generally available in the restrooms or at sinks as well.
Thank you. So a number of questions have come in, and I will answer these regarding both parking passes and cards. And Carol, do please interject if anything I say maybe isn't accurate or you have additional information to share. So this is particularly important, I think, to new students around the M card. So I believe this was already mentioned, but just to reiterate, new students coming to our campus for the first time this fall who have an in-person course will get a direct outreach from the University Unions and Events team to schedule an appointment to get their ID. That ID will be needed in order to enter into the building for the course. New students who do not have an in-person course will be contacted later in the term to schedule an appointment, at which point they can get their ID. But since they will not need it immediately, the new students with in-person courses will be prioritized. Also, questions about parking passes. So parking passes are not being charged this year. There's no cost for parking passes. So we've gotten a number of questions to that end, but they will be required for folks who will be coming onto campus. I believe our University Unions and Events team will also be working to identify the students who are coming to campus who would need a parking pass. Carol, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I think you covered it completely. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so we've received a number of questions about the number of credits that would be considered full-time. In some places, a student has said it shows up that 8 credits would be considered full-time, and in other places, 12. This is for a Master of Science in Information Systems. So Vice Provost for Enrollment Management, Melissa, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Not exactly sure where they're looking, but there is a difference. But it is, if this is a graduate student, it would be at the 8 credits. If it's an undergraduate student, it is at 12 credits. So probably depending on what they're looking at, both answers are true. It just depends which student you are. But yes, if this is a specific graduate student, then 8 would be the correct answer.
Thank you. So we've received a question about how a student might go about getting their textbooks, given that the University Center and the bookstore are not open in person. So I just want to reiterate that students can order their textbooks online and that the bookstore will have them prepared for you, and there will be a pickup opportunity so you can continue to utilize the bookstore, get your textbooks, you will drive onto campus, and there will be a curbside pickup for you. Okay, we're getting a ton of questions. This is terrific. Thank you so much. This goes to the provost. What do you think the future outlook on the format and structure of classes are if Michigan advances to the next phase of the pandemic and COVID-19 cases begin to decline? Do you foresee class structure in the future changing at all, or is this the new norm?
Actually, I'd welcome the Chancellor's thoughts on this as well. It's a great question, and I think UM-Dearborn will have to be thinking and talking about. If things get better, and boy, that would be nice. It means we have more flexibility about how we want to consider course delivery. I would, it's hard to, I've given up on predicting the future at this point, but, I would be surprised if we ever go back completely to absolutely nothing but face-to-face, just because I think, for many students, especially the students we want to reach, online does have some advantages of flexibility and accessibility and being able to maneuver that it works well with your life. That said, there's nothing like the synchronous together talking to each other, intersecting with each other, talking to your classmates in real time, real space, face to face. That's also an essential part of education. So my bet is that going forward, we're going to do various blended modalities that work for as wide a range of students as we can possibly reach, because that's what we want to do. So, but Chancellor, I don't know, what would you say on this one?
I would agree with you. I think it was well said, your prediction about the future. I think that we've uncovered troves of exciting ways to deliver curriculum. And we're going to capitalize on that. And in some cases, we may find that face-to-face is more effective. In other cases, we will find that online provides opportunities to import modules from other places and expose students to a variety of different other opportunities. So I think the future has changed permanently. With regard to when we'll be able to come back to campus, my view of this, keeping track of what's out there with the Johns Hopkins COVID site. And if you are not familiar with that, I would strongly encourage you to look at that because it tracks COVID around the country and around the world. It doesn't look like that is in the near term, near field foreseeable future. So I think that we're going to be in this adapting mode for quite some time yet. And of course, we're all anxious to get through this from a health and safety perspective and rejoin the social circles that are so comfortable for us, not just on campus, but just in life in general. But I think that that's still a little bit unavailable at the moment.
Okay, thank you. So our next question is about how students could get in contact with student organizations or fraternities and sororities. And I think this is particularly pertinent to new students coming to us for the first time. So I encourage you to check out the website for the Office of Student Life. On that website, you'll find information about Welcome Week activities. Welcome Week will actually be 6 weeks this year, and the first 2 weeks, the theme will be Welcome Back Wolverines and Welcome Home Wolverines. So to that end, there will be a large virtual organization fair where students can drop in to visit with any of the organizations that spark their interest, whether they are academic related, whether they are social related, or whatever they may be about. So that way you can find out more, learn if this is the right choice for you, or just get a little bit more information. So thank you for that question.
I wondered if we could talk a little bit about the library.
Absolutely.
Because there were some questions that came in early about that, and a couple I'm seeing about. So I Associate Provost / Director Linker, would you like to talk briefly on that? Because I think the Mardigan is an important part of our campus culture.
Sure, thank you so much, Provost Alcock. I was just answering a question about interlibrary loan. I'm excited for the fall semester, everyone, and I just wanted to let you know that in the library we will be open and available for checking out physical materials. That includes books, lots and lots of DVDs. We also have loanable technology. Those things will be available for checkout and for checking in. The only thing is we're to quarantine materials for 4 days after they're checked in to make sure that they're disinfected. We're excited to offer live chat, and that is Sunday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that includes subject librarians who are happy to chat with you live, are available for virtual appointments. And you can find all of those things on the library website. The library at UM-Dearborn is the Mardigan Library, and we have an excellent partnership with U of M Ann Arbor Library. We share lots of resources together, but you need to log in through your University of Michigan-Dearborn unique name and password to access our library, and then we can connect you if there are materials that we don't have available, either electronic or physical. We can do an interlibrary loan, and you can come and pick up materials that way. And we've also got quite a few online resources that we've been working on over the summer. We've got modules for navigating databases. We have some great study tips. We worked on some get into your qua routine to help with motivation. And sort of setting up a schedule if your classes are mostly remote. But we in the library are excited to provide resources for you in the fall and some programming and create a sense of community online to help support your classes.
I do want to just add, for those that may not know it, Dr. Linker worked very hard to make sure that everyone on campus, faculty, students, and staff, all have access to the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. So you can read that as you may have subscribed to it, free of charge. And I think that's a great way to keep track of what's happening with COVID, among many other things.
And thanks to Chancellor Grasso for really leading that initiative. But we in the library, that's absolutely right. You have, as a student at U of M-Dearborn, you have access to free subscriptions to the New York Times and Wall Street Journal. And we have, if you need any help setting it up, our systems folks have been wonderful and attentive in doing that. Again, just contact us right through the Mardigan Library website page in the live chat.
Fantastic, thank you. So I'm going to turn our next question over to Vice Provost for Enrollment Management, Melissa Stone. So the student writes, I have a question about financial aid. I applied for a budget appeal for a laptop and it says it has processed. What would my next steps be in order to receive the funding for the laptop? And I imagine this is probably a question a lot of students have.
Yeah, thank you, Dean Finley. I did want to address this because I saw the question come through, just really to remind people about some of the upcoming, the timing of some things that occur that are very important to students when they think about how they get refunds. So obviously we are starting to ramp up of what the fall 20 semester and all the activity that occurs. And there are some federal rules about how and when we can disperse aid. So I did want to update everyone, and this is also available on the fall announcements on the financial aid page, but as of August 24th is when the first disbursement would occur. So I think that as long as students have finalized all of the requirements, and they again can, through their Dearborn Connect, verify any open requirements they may have. But as long as they've done everything they need to process their aid, the first disbursement would happen on the 24th. And so any students, so like this particular example where a student likely is getting additional aid beyond what they need for their direct costs, their tuition and fees to pay their bill, they'll be eligible for a refund. And so as of the 24th, that would disperse, and as long as students have set up their direct deposit with the Student Accounts Office, they would see that go directly to their bank account within 3 to 5 business days, or a check would be dispersed if they've not set up direct deposit. So essentially the refund process is pretty automatic as long as students have finalized all their documentation and have direct deposit. They'll start seeing those funds to be able to purchase things like laptops that they may be borrowing additional money for.
So the next question I'm going to hand to our chancellor. So first of all, we received a compliment that the University of Michigan-Dearborn really got out ahead and said we will move forward with very limited in-person courses, far ahead of many other schools who are now backtracking a bit, right, to a more remote term. But the question then says, so we have a number of examples of schools across the country in the last few days who have made the decision to go fully remote. So what types of information are you considering as you continue to assess the situation?
That's an excellent question. And I can tell you that with every decision that's made in another institution, we consider that in all of our meetings, and we come back to our decision to reaffirm or change our minds on certain aspects of our decision. We're in a privileged position, I think. We are the only public university in the state of Michigan that's 100% a commuter campus. So we have no residence halls on our campus. We also don't have a large medical center or large athletic programs. So we are unique in that regard in the state of Michigan. We have been very careful to make sure that anything that we're going to do on campus, and Carol Glick has been a terrific partner and leader in this, is safe. So we're going to screen everybody that goes into buildings, as Laura Drabchik said. We're going to clean the surfaces of all the facilities in between uses. We're going to maintain social distancing. So as we stand right now at this point in time and at this place, I think that our team feels pretty safe, pretty certain that we will be safe with the model that we are proposing to go forward. We will be tracking any types of cases and outbreaks that we might have, and we may have to pivot. But at the moment, with all of our best thinking, I think that we are in a position to keep everyone safe and offer a high quality education for our campus. So we're tracking Notre Dame and Michigan State, and they're actually coming to our side of the house. Michigan State had said, and Dean Finley's a graduate, so I won't say anything pejorative about Michigan State, but they said initially, we're coming back face to face, when we were saying we're going to be very careful about what we do. And now I think they're a little bit more careful about their path forward. But I think that you should be confident in knowing that a lot of very smart people that are hardworking are thinking about your safety on a daily, hourly basis, and making sure that we're doing the best we can by you.
Thank you. So it is 12 o'clock, so I'm going to offer our panelists a last opportunity if there's anything else they wanted to share that we didn't get to just yet. So we'll start with you, Chancellor. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we close this afternoon?
All I'd like to say is, I want to thank all of the students for your resilience, for your adaptability, for your understanding, and for being partners in keeping our campus safe while getting your education. We are committed to your success, first and foremost to your health and well-being, and very close behind that to your education and making sure that you have the opportunity of a Michigan education and the opportunities that come with a Michigan education. So I want to, again, thank you for your adaptability. I want to congratulate you on getting into the University of Michigan-Dearborn and your continued success with us. And I also want to thank the team that's on the screen and the team that's behind the screen that has helped us keep everything safe and keep this great institution open so that you can get a terrific education. Go Blue, go Dearborn.
Thank you so much. Provost Alcock, is there any last comment you would like to make?
I hope we've answered most of the questions. I think we probably didn't get to all of them, and I do want those who still have outstanding, concerns or worries or queries to feel free to reach out. Dean Finley, what's your handy dandy email that perhaps
Dearborn COVID support at umich.edu.
And maybe, if your team doesn't mind, if folks can send in questions, they can be distributed outwards. I know we're recording this, so we'll have an ideas of what remaining questions are, but just to make sure we get the answers to the right places. And I know, I'm sorry that our Office of International Affairs folks didn't have a chance to jump in, but I see they've been madly Q&Aing and answering questions over there. Thank you for that. And I know that I see everywhere they say, let us know your concerns on that side. So all to say, yeah, please.
I just want to update also that an email is going out to all international students today with more information. Part of why those questions were answered individually is because oftentimes the specificity of the question is really about an individual circumstance, so it doesn't have the same generalizability. So I know that our Office of International Affairs teams will be ready to answer any of those questions as they come in. But again, just to reiterate that a email is going out today to all international students. So are there any other folks on our panel today that would like to provide any closing remarks? Okay, well, with that, I just want to say again, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your continued support as we all navigate this unusual time together. We look forward to being back in the fall term with you and supporting you throughout. So thank you and have a great day.
Go Blue.
Go Blue.